Matt Jacoby. I'm here at 11 Music Career Center, where we help young aspiring musicians and producers bridge the gap between music education and a music career they love. And we understand that we need to sometimes bring their parents along because they have to have the support of the family and maybe even financial backing. So that's what we do. We try to make sure that we're providing that on ramp from private lessons and band, school band, and tinkering and hobbyists to actually figuring out what the dynamics of a music career look like. So today I am here with, and we've had him here before, Jake from Barcelona. He is a artist and a one of our 11 coaches who does help people who are looking to get into the music space as well. He's living, breathing embodiment of professional music life. Yeah,
Resilience, let's say.
yeah, yeah.
Resilience and stubbornness.
You are proof that you have survived the war. But yeah, I feel free to I don't know, give you a little plug or talk about your music a little bit, and then we can jump into what we want to touch on today.
Yeah, well, sure. Actually, my story began at the age of 8. Not because I wanted, but because my mom wanted me and my brother to start learning an instrument. So at the end, she found like a guitar teacher for private lessons, and then it was love at the first sight at the first time that I tried. So that's why I thank my mom ever since. And so through the years, I learned basically everything. So songwriting, music composition, mixing, mastering, music business. As of today, I'm an active full-time singer, composer, manager, mentor, sound designer, basically everything. I do everything in music. Like everybody else, I had a day job for about 12 years that helped me finance my studies and my career, the first steps of my brand. And up until like 78 years ago, I kept this day job and I quit, and I dedicated completely to music. And so as of today, I'm very happy about that. The struggles aren't over; they never are. So that's also good to keep in mind. But yeah, that probably is the long story short.
You are giving a lot of relatable stories here to this is the life, and there's no way around it. There's no cushioning
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and also because like anything else, I think that there is no worse option than telling yourself and people a wrong story that's creating false myths. And then when you are facing reality, it seems that it sucks. It's not that it sucks. It's like that if I am prepared to go eating a pizza and then you're handing over, I don't know, a dish of soup, I'm disappointed because I got prepared for pizza, and so my brain and my expectations were built all on that. So I do believe that there are a lot of possibilities of making a sustainable living out of music, if that's your path. Because a lot of people might have a true passion, true love for music, but perhaps being a professional, full-time professional, is not actually their destiny. Nobody can say that, but so that's why I try to spread the verb and everything that I learned myself, just trying to, yeah, to tell relatable stories. At least what happened to me, I can talk about what I know and what happened to me. Of the things that I don't know and that didn't happen to me, I can't talk about it.
Yeah, until you make them happen, or someone makes them happen to you, or whatever. But yeah, that almost leads into one of our first initial points, was like being proactive and educating yourself and the sharing relatable
Yeah,
stories. It's
yeah, all the
um,
time, all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, even if it is starts out as just a hobby, or if you're forced by your parents, like you did with your mom, it's like you're gonna
Yeah.
do this. You're gonna do this. I can't say I was forced. I picked up drums pretty in fifth grade, and was just like I never looked back. But whether or not it was gonna actually be like a day job was on the fence. I enjoyed the hobby thing. It was fun to play out, and one of my bands did actually. get scouted at one point shortly after I left. I like to say I was the previous drummer, like the guy who got kicked out of the Beatles or left the Beatles before Ringo. You know, he
Right,
witnessed that
right.
too. So. But we all have
And
our
and how
stories.
and
Yeah.
how did they go after you left? Better or worse?
You know, well, they didn't get picked up. I guess they had to like prove like they could keep things like momentum going on their own for a
Okay.
bit. Like it was more of that early influencer stage where we didn't necessarily have the social media yet. This was 2004,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess you had to have like much level of crowd engagement and seeing your audiences grow naturally before they would like. So I think that was what they were doing before social media.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
at the time, the only benefit I got, I think, was to get a free drink on the labels tab just the night that they were in the bar. I was there, you know, hanging out. But other than that, that was about the extent of it.
well, it happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I think overall, the idea of being signed, I've definitely has changed over the years. Independent seems way more attractive now. Just knowing what I know now, you know, like why bother?
Well, attractive and also, in my opinion, like compulsory. I don't
Yeah,
see a lot of other roads. I don't know if a lot of people think the same, because I'm sure that a lot of artists out there that probably would love to live back in the day. But as of today, going independent, it's on the long run.
yeah.
It's the only thing that can grant you something tangible, in my opinion.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, having full control over everything and not giving up ownership of too much or anything if possible, or being good with letting go of or letting go of what you know is safe, or just kind of giving people the little bit that you need to make it for yourself to worry about, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
when I'm saying independent, I don't mean that you're never gonna release with a label. You will never partner with an agency. You might never sign a deal, but it all, in my opinion, it all goes back to you being the center of
mhm,
everything you do. And eventually you might be given some pieces temporarily, or for a quite significant amount of time, but always being in control of what you're getting out of that. Because signing, or giving some pieces of you out of the promise of you might be breaking up, I don't know, that sounds so outdated, and that
mhm.
sounds so untrue as of today. So when I mean independent, means that I remember in the movies now, as of today, the word producer in music is associated all the time with actually the physical guy who produces the song. But in movie, when you think about the producer, is actually the guy who puts the money. When I mean independent, you have to be the guy that puts the money, because whoever puts the biggest amount of the pot owns it. That's very plain and simple. That's no other way of turning around. So as long as the money comes from another person or another institution, they got to keep it.
That kind of leads me into a little bit of our last thing, or one of our points about being a good communicator. Because I feel like in order to know what you want to protect, like if you're going to say I'm going to fund it, or I'm going to fund majority of it, or you know, the splits, you know, whether you got people who are contributing to you in the studio and you need, or you're buying a beat, or you know, how all the negotiating that has to go on, even with venues. Like we want to talk a little bit about your experience with Miami Music Week a little later, but just, you know, everything that you do has to be clearly defined, has to be clearly negotiated.
Yeah.
um Keeping your head on, staying humble, like, you know, everything's fair trade, fair negotiation deals. Like how, what's your experience been with like stuff like that, like in your career?
Personally, I never had the luck and the bad luck of signing a record deal. So that's probably I didn't I didn't get a chance to live it on my skin. But on the other hand, I knew and I met a lot of artists that did, so I know how it works. And so, like I said, for me, when I say independent, it's like make sure that you're free to choose every opportunities and even to create opportunities. Because when you're signed with a 360 deal or with those deal, when actually you are signing the artist, not just the record or the single, you don't. Somebody else will always have a word on everything. Like you get contacted by a manager, you get contacted by an artist, you get contacted by anybody else, and they're offering you something. They offer you to feature, they offer you to, you know, to be on stage, to be present in this festival, to be open act to a big artist. If you're not entirely free to decide what's best for you, you will always have to ask for the permission, which for me is kind of crazy, especially as of today. I don't mean that back in the day there was no other option. I mean, it's the way that the industry was built. So whatever worked, I don't judge that. But as of today, it's okay to be working, and that's what I always did. You are licensing your album, you're licensing your EP, your song, but then the artist, it's always you are in control of that. The project is always in control of that. So my experience is that that's kind of funny. All the people are complaining how many times they got screwed by the industry insiders. I got more screwed by artists than industry insiders. When I became a producer for other artists, when I became a manager, when I became a mentor, I mean, when I think about losing money or somebody who promises or, you know, gets a deal from me and then they completely disappear or they don't respect the terms and the conditions that we had signed at the beginning, to me, the biggest crap came from ours, not from the from the industry insiders. Of course, I don't mean that they are the. I mean, I do believe that the biggest losses of money come from the industry insiders when you are promised a lot of things, when you are putting a lot of money. And I'm talking weekly to people that are owed like 10, 15, $20,000 by big majors, and they haven't seen a time for the past 12 years or something like that, and they know that their music landed on, I don't know, they got licenses, they got deals on television or movies or something like that. So that's also another thing. As of today, you can be your own publisher, you can own all rights connected to your music. And so that's why, in my opinion, it's okay to give something out, but then you always need always make sure that you can test it. Like you are giving one song, make sure that you test the collaboration first, and then see how it goes. Because guys, today's most wanted currency is trust. Trust ain't for selling. So you have to earn. So you can't think that because there are institutions, managers, artists who achieved great things, these people are worth our trust. It doesn't work that way. And I might say that in a lot of cases, it's completely the opposite. But I don't want to spoil the nobody's illusion. I just say don't don't mix fame and acknowledgement with trust. These are two completely different things. Because the day you got a deal from a major label, you got a featuring with a very important artist, you are being scouted or observed by a very important manager or A&R, and you are reasoning, your mind is like, okay, this is the manager that brought X on stage or this person to be a superstar. So he or she should do the same for me. And I can expect everything, no strings attached. That's where the catch fall. So
We're confusing success rate and testimonials by seeing another artist up on stage that label did with the trust. Like we trust that they're going to get us to the same place. But when there's like such a small percentage of the artists that are actually signed, it's like they're signing to capture the ownership of it, but aren't obligated to put anything out unless they really believe in you, put everything behind you, or you're like superstar material. It's not just like
and
mid-level star material.
yeah, and as of today, that thing with the apparently the apparent social validation with likes, streams, social media followers. So whenever we see all those people that did these accomplishments, and perhaps they have some followers, they have some public validation, our mind is even less active, and we tend to accept, and we tend to, oh my god, I got, scouted by this guy, he noted me. And over the past few weeks, with Jennifer Lopez thing, that how many people are saying that, yeah, I was the one singing this song or the other song. So you never really know. So let's start from this principle. We never really know things. So whenever you are, it's not just in music, whenever you're being approached by somebody, trust is nothing to be given for free. I mean, it's like life. And I don't mean that you have to be disrespectfully, let's say, unpolite. It's okay to be polite, but trust, I mean, I don't have to take it for granted. And that's also something I like to remind myself, that when I am a provider of a service, when I'm trying to sell something, whether it's my music, whether it's my show on a situation, on a venue that they never saw me before, and I'm selling them the idea, look at me in this place, how I did it, how the people enjoy it. I can't take it for granted that they know for sure that on that very day I will do the same performance like I did in Miami and Amsterdam and London. So this is a very broad and theoretical concept, but I like to remind myself, trust is to be built. And that's why you have to acquire that mentality, that otherwise you are being entitled, you're being self-entitled. And you just imagine that because you did something once, everything comes off of it automatically. I don't like thinking like that before anything else, for me, because it builds a very passive and self-entitled mentality that I don't like, and I don't think it helps, especially in this business.
Yeah, keeping a level head is pretty much like a given. Otherwise, you start to go off track. I mean, I've even seen a video, I'm assuming it's not AI, Taylor Swift even saying, people think, you get discovered, you get signed. It's just like this step by step thing. And like, no, there's a lot more pieces to that. And like you said, trust is a big part of that. And to make those connections and the opportunities involved, and whether it's with other artists who are apparently untrustworthy now I'm not so sure I'm as trusting of all artists. Or, whether it's the industry people or venues or major festivals or, man.
And if you think that today what's also missing is the one of the most important things, the people who can offer something, whether it's deal, whether it's support, whether it's stage slots for an artist, they're completely averse to risk. They won't take any risk. And so whenever those who were supposed to be taking risks, they're no longer accepting that, that you have a very the options are limited, because they wanna something that's already validated, that's already working out there. It's in my opinion, it's a paradox, and it's a stupid cycle, but that's the way that it is today. So don't waste too much time hoping for somebody to believe in what you are believing. Make it happen, and then you go out and sell. And show and tell, in my opinion, is the biggest law of everything. You must first do things, do whatever it takes, and I mean it. I mean it. So whatever it takes is like, okay, you don't have the money to do this, find the money somewhere else, find another job, but then put you in important situation. You have to go for free to be an open act for an important artist, or not all the time you have to look for the superstar. You have to be opening, you can offer yourself to be joining the tour of a more important artist than you in that moment, like do like a featuring, or also offering kind of a way to enter the circuit of somebody who is a little bit higher than you. Sometimes it's just 10 levels higher than you, sometimes it's just 5, but just build credibility, whatever it takes. Because as of today, there is unfortunately no time for building, apparently, from those who are looking, time time is not given to develop things gradually. There was a moment in which you had a band, you started like getting gigs locally, you got noted, people were word of mouth, and then you got more gigs a little bit out of your area of interest because people were listening to what people were referring to each other. As of today, apparently there's that time, it's much less, and people are looking to that with more with less interest, let's say. So I'm a fan of wherever it takes, and I say that because it was the same for me. I see a lot of people after 2-3 years, it's like, oh man, I have been paying a lot to put myself on stage before this artist, before the other artist. I did that. But then it got me, before starting this conversation, you were mentioning that you saw my post about the time in which I was doing metal. One slot that was absolutely, let's say, feasible in terms of investment, was nothing crazy about that, got me in front of 10,000 people. And after that, I lived quite good for a couple of years because that band, my band, was called and paid for gigs because we were on that stage before a huge band, a huge metal band. So, and then somebody thinks, okay, so if I paid, it's not that somebody chose me. It's not that I'm building my value because somebody's saying, okay, you are worth, and so I choose you. I don't care about that. Go on stage, make a great show, make sure that that show is visible, is recorded, and people can see it, and that's a proof. That's your CV. That's there. Nobody's taking that away from you.
Yeah, definitely good things to live by, especially when you get to that point. Especially, if you're starting out local, may apply a little bit, but I'm guessing it gets more and more complex and more risky as the gigs level up a little bit here and there. Um, Speaking of, so love the metal reference, but I want to, of course, I'm going to completely change genres because we know where you are now. Um, is what was it? What was the process like, or what ultimately led to? And I don't remember if this is your first Miami Music Week, or if, but
Yeah, correct.
what was the
Correct.
on ramp for that as an artist?
Well, actually, 1 year before that, we started a little bit less than 1 year. We made a connection with a DJ that handles some situations. So he's a connected guy. Nothing, under the table, nothing sketchy. So it's just like connections. That's all about. And this business, they are still worth a lot. And so we started like a project. We built up this strategy of releasing a lot of songs with different labels in EDM, house music, and tech house music. So that built credibility because in 6 months we released about 10 songs. So in some months even 2 songs, and so we had like we were perceived a lot active at that time. So it started with the first gig in London before Steve Aoki at the Ministry of Sound, which is one of the most known and renowned club in the world for house and dance music. So after that, we got 3 gigs in Amsterdam at the ADE, which is the well, no, the ADE is not the same as the Miami Music Week, but it's also a conference. It's not just like concerts. There's also the conference part, and so that's also why we landed in Miami, because we were building and we were working with this momentum. We were keeping it up. But again, so in this case, it was connection. We were basically investing in our trips, because in these cases were mostly showcases. You weren't paid, you didn't have cachet. We also didn't pay for slots, but it's a way for showcasing. And showcasing for me, it's absolutely important because you're doing it within the environment in that moment, whoever sees that show, and then you're also showcasing for whoever sees you from the outside. And we got a couple of great gigs just because people were seeing the after movie that we did in London or Amsterdam, because we were carrying a video maker with us. We basically recorded the 3 days, 4 days, everything. We created this after movie on Instagram, and then people were contacting us, offering gigs. There was a gig that we couldn't take it just because we were invited to play at the French embassy in Pakistan. Can you imagine? Just because of the after movie. Then thing collapsed because it started the war in Israel, and so I understood that the area was affected in terms of security. But so that's when people are asking, why am I doing this? Because the feeling is that it's useless, it's pointless, nothing really changes. You're doing it because there are 1,000 eyes that's always potentially watching you. And at the moment of choosing who to trust and who to hire for a job, for a concert, it's all about of how you are perceived. I'm following a lot of the teachings of Rory Sutherland. It's a publicist, a very famous one. He's from the UK, I guess, and he puts it the best way possible. I mean, it's all about perception. We choose by perception. We don't choose, and we don't pay for what the thing really is. We pay for what the thing means to us, whether it's an artist, whether it's music, whether it's a product, whether it's a pair of shoes, doesn't matter. So you have to work on the perception, on the storytelling. And I'm not getting into the, okay, is this mind manipulation or not? Everything is mind manipulation. If you put it that way, perhaps, I don't know if in English, in Italian, manipulation kind of has like a bitter side. When you think about the word manipulation, it's normally taken as a not so positive thing. I'm not saying completely negative, but it's also thought as altering artificially and sketchily the reality. Just use another word if you don't like manipulation. Just alter the truth in your favor, and you can still stay true to yourself. That's the important thing. You don't have to trick anybody. So I'm not a fan of faking things. Absolutely.
Oh, I can tell you have not been a fake whatsoever to date.
I don't know. I mean, it's something that I do. I'm not. I know that there are some people that sometimes they do inflate something, whether it's their numbers, their image, their curriculum. I don't know. I believe that I try to remember whether I ever inflated something when I didn't have experiences, and so I was trying to sell myself a little bit more than I was capable of. Probably I did that not so publicly. Like I remember when I started producing the artists, sometimes people were like, "Okay, I need to produce this genre," and I wasn't so much into that. I didn't get to learn like the mixing techniques properly, so I wasn't yet at a very good level. But perhaps I tried to oversell myself, and it's like, okay, I can take the job and I can fix that. But then what we remember is that whenever I understood that I wasn't able to finish the job, in the meantime, I was always studying. So if I oversold myself, but I always accomplished and I always reached the result, because in the meantime, if I wasn't able to do the thing that I promised somebody, I was learning and studying to achieve that. So probably eventually, I don't recall ever letting somebody down in that sense, to explicitly lying about something that I could do and that in the end I could not. I don't remember doing that.
Everything you're saying, in addition to the thing that I posted this morning on Instagram, really relates back to this, like almost the whole avoiding the manipulation, the humility, the ignoring who you are, being yourself, like authentic, is still very much alive and well in music, despite the fact that you're battling all the things that you've just been talking about for the last 29 minutes. It's
Yeah,
a mind game.
and it's difficult. I like the modern definition of courage, and that they said that the contrary of courage is conformity.
Hmm.
As so staying true to yourself means that you will be different because we're all different. And as of today, especially in music, the market, the way we know it, doesn't like something that's diverse, something that's
Yeah.
different. But on the long run, the authenticity is the biggest currency that you have. That's what I learned.
Yeah, you can't ever regret what you did or what you will do if you know that you did it right and your best
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for the right reasons. Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, we covered a lot today. Being a communication ties everything together. The trust, educating yourself, the relatable stories, the be you, always be you. You'll never go wrong with being you. And you're like walking, like I said at the beginning, like you're a walking embodiment of all of these points because you've been living the dream for how many years now?
Well, if I count since the beginning, it's almost 30.
Okay,
I'm 37, so it's actually 29 years. Yeah.
that makes you feel younger, right? It's only 29.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is a good place to stop, but I'm glad we got a chance to cover this. Thank you for sharing your stories. This was amazing as
Thank you for
always.
inviting me, as usual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, we'll have replays everywhere, of course, and clips. But I thanks for anyone who's joined us today. We will definitely be doing this again with either Jake or other people or a combination of both. The more the merrier. So
Yeah.
appreciate everybody joining today.
Bye bye.
Bye.